Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to a special edition presented by Jewel T. Sains of those Collinsport boys with Daniel Culver, Patrick McRae, Gordon Demowski, and myself, Alan Gallant. And tonight we're going to be discussing the merits or demerits, depending on whose opinion is what, of the great, and that's my opinion, 1960 black and white classic Psycho. Let's start with Daniel. When was the first time you saw this?
That's actually a good question. I'm not sure. I know I've seen it as an adult though. Like, I don't know, I'd say about maybe 2015 or 2016, you know?
Okay, about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Cool.
so it's pretty good though.
Yep, I mean, it's widely available. People are still seeing it for the first time now, so that's pretty good.
That's
Gordon,
true.
when was the first time you saw this?
I think it would have had to have been in probably in college when VHS tapes came out because I don't remember seeing it on TV in high school.
Mm,
So I probably would have seen it, back in the late 80s
okay,
when it would have been initially part of a VHS run. So I would have rented it and watched it on my own.
yeah. Patrick,
Yes.
when was the first time that you saw this film?
First time I saw this film was in 1983. It was Halloween of 1983 on I think maybe the Spotlight cable channel. I believe it had Robert Osborne saying some nice things about it
Yeah.
before it started, and it was one of these things I had heard about forever. I had heard about the shower scene. I had heard about the shower scene. I heard about the shower scene. Really, when it was bouncing around the zeitgeist back then, and maybe even today, that's what everybody comes to the point that there's a really good documentary that's been made just about the shower scene, just about
Hmm.
shooting that.
Yes.
And I was, of course, because I was a kid, I was asleep well before the shower scene. It was almost like John Gavin tucked me in, and off I went. In terms of really seeing the whole thing or seeing it in more than little bits and pieces, that would not be until, oh, I would say 1988, when I think the Vogue down the street, where I was working at the time, not only showed it, but showed it for Mother's Day. They would always show the Manchurian Candidate or Psycho or something like that for Mother's
Ah,
Day with a
yes.
real sense of humor.
Yes.
And a movie that I don't think TVs, or at least TVs of that era, between then and when the movie came out, uh, served the movie well. I think this is a film I really, even though it was made in a very kind of small, intimate way, you need to swim around in this black and white, noir kind of nightmare on as large a canvas as possible,
Mhm.
because otherwise it is so restrained it is a tad turgid at times, but when you see it big Jerry, it's something else.
Yeah, and for Hitchcock, it is rather restrained. A lot of Hitchcock stuff is, like The Birds, for instance. Some of the scenes in that are rather intense and very florid, for obvious reasons, using large numbers of birds. But yeah, absolutely. I love this film, and I'll tell you why. I have a strange relationship with this film. My mother saw it while I was in vitro. Um, she was pregnant with me when she first saw
Wow.
this film. She
Wow.
was great with child, actually. I was born quite, within a short period of time. As a matter of fact, she saw it on its release, which would have been in June of 1960, and I was born on the 4th of July of 1960.
Okay.
So I think I was imprinted by this thing a
Yeah.
little bit. I never saw the full version of it, outro, until I was probably somewhere between 15 and 17 years old.
Let me ask you something, because you would have been very much aware of this. Was there something odd about its re-release schedule or its availability to the public for a while? Is it the sort of thing that was, kept kind of tucked away out of sight? I know Hitchcock had. It wasn't part of that weird, Paramount Universal kerfuffle thing, but
No, it was available on television sporadically, and
okay.
you did not. You're right. It was not hard. It was not frequent run at all, like
Okay.
these other movies at
I
all.
wondered because
Uh,
it felt like there was something kind of exclusive or rare about it compared to certain other films.
yeah, I think it may have been that it was only being made available like to networks and that sort of, like
Okay.
national networks for a while. And I don't recall it. It's also one of those movies which is terror horror that doesn't need a lot of editing. Even back in the 70s, it wouldn't have needed a lot of editing because it wasn't loaded with body horror or anything like that. If anything, maybe in some of the more conservative areas, they might have reduced the amount of time you're seeing
Which
Janet Leigh in the
a
bra,
very
you know?
that's a very ironic statement though, because it conceptually it is full of body horror,
Oh yeah, absolutely,
but
absolutely.
it
But
is very
violence is
tasteful.
okay as long as you don't see, blood gushing or
Yeah,
sexual body parts.
it's
Yeah.
this show brought to you by Hershey syrup. Um, it it certainly is by implication, but he was very clever about that. I think.
hmm hmm
Sure. As weird as it sounds, this was censored though, because I don't know if you guys have the Blu-ray, but the 60th anniversary one has the option to watch the uncovers. I think the 4K might too, but I'm not sure.
Oh, with more nudity or
Oh, actually, it's weird is I don't think there really is a lot of nudity, but
no?
you know how
No,
like
I
there's
I just didn't. I was wondering if there was extra footage or something like that that they had. That's all. But there isn't. Yeah, in the original print, there isn't very much at all. It's all implied.
Hmm.
When she's in the shower and he's dragging her out of the shower after she's dead, all of that sort of thing. There is some hint of it, but it's not real. Real full
That's
nudity.
true. Oh yeah, I think when Janet Leigh takes off her bra, like well, it's taken off. I think there's a part where you can slightly see her breast, but you can't see her nipples or anything yet.
Right, right, right. Just a hint of it. Again, remembering that this is 1960. So let's go around. Gordon, what are your thoughts about this film and its origins and its place?
Well, I think it's um I think that I think first I think it's automatic. I think it's a classic film and it's one of Hitchcock's best. I think it's also a film that because so much of it is in our has kind of seeped into memes in our consciousness, we kind of take it for granted as to how powerful it is um because it is very sparse. And I think this was produced right like around the time that Hitchcock was doing his television show. So I think it was literally, I think he might have even brought his crew to do it because it is so stripped down and it's not as, when you look at Hitchcock's work before this, it's big and there's some great like big set piece shots along with a lot of the paranoia and the tension and everything else. I think what also helps is the screenplay was written by a guy named Joe Stefano, who I know he's done a lot of other work, but the I think he's one of the things he's probably better known for is writing much of the first series of Outer Limits, which would have been around this time.
Yes,
And he's
absolutely.
very much there's a there's a podcast called Doctor Who: The Writers' Room, who during COVID they did because they had run out of classic Who episodes to talk about. They started talking about the Outer Limits, and that Stefano is kind of he's a very gothic writer. Like he was writing in a there he's writing in sci-fi, but in Psycho, I think he's really melding Bloch's kind of really grisly novel into a kind of neo-gothic and I think Hitchcock meets that. And I think it has that kind of that tone that I think people don't really it's a film that I think a lot of people have seen, but to kind like Patrick's point, you can't just see it. You kind of have to immerse yourself in it.
Yeah, I agree. It's also the first time you see it, it has the impact of you're not sure what's going on. You're not sure. You have inklings, but there's a lot of psychological stuff going on, and you don't know that until it's mentioned, you don't know that the mother is dead, that she's not really there. Um, but so there's that sort of uncertainty that's going on, and that contributes to it. I also think that the music bed is really good in this movie too. It's not overwrought, but it's effective.
Oh yeah,
I wonder about what was the reason show? Was it Bates Motel? Is that it?
Yes.
All of the recent kind of regurgitations of it or iterations or whatever they are. And audience members certainly when the Stefano written sequel, I think he wrote Psycho 2,
Mhm.
did he?
Check.
I think he did. Anyway, when the sequel came out, and then another sequel came out, another sequel came out, and at the time, with it being featured in various Universal theme park events and so on and so forth, I mean, just the house alone is up there. Um, it was impossible to get away from. It had been sold in the firmament of maybe the third or fourth wave of Universal monsters, kind of. With Mrs. Bates costumes and so on and so forth. And so it was so deep in the zeitgeist that it was hard for it to not be spoiled by virtue of having been named.
Mhm.
I wonder now if Generation Alpha will have an easier time of it because of their media ignorance. If they ever get around to sitting down and watching it and making it through the whole thing, if it will manage to scare and shock a whole new generation, because finally the nature of media is so individualized that the level of surprise that I think films will earn once more will be pretty pleasing. Do you think that's a possibility, or does this movie spoil itself by simply being mentioned in our culture, and it's just a countdown until somebody mentions the word mother?
It's definitely I mean it's soaked in the consciousness of particular generations, especially. I'm not so sure it's soaked in the consciousness of the Zoomers, but earlier generations it is. And yeah, so there's a prejudice there about mother and the shower scene and all of that sort of thing that might supersede the holistic impact of the film until you sit back down, clear your mind, and just watch the whole thing again.
Yeah, maybe they like it more because they do know what the twist is,
Yeah.
and it's just a countdown to that. I mean, that's the other possibility.
Yes. I mean, and the fact that it's so well done means that there's certain joy in that, even though you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all the characters in this play their part in this sort of peaking drama, And Daniel, what did you think of it the first time you saw it as opposed to seeing it now?
Oh, honestly, I still think it's pretty good, like, it's like, I think this is one of those movies people should actually watch. Like, even if you've
Yeah.
seen Bates Motel, you should definitely see this. Like, and I know some people watched Bates Motel first, but in my opinion, you just can't do that because, like Alan said, like, you're not supposed to know the mother is dead at first, so it kind of ruins that if you've seen her get killed in a show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Plus, Bates Motel is,
Obviously,
oh, sorry.
yeah. Obviously Psycho's the foundation for a lot of these movies that have been made since Psycho 1 through 4,
Mhm.
and 4 is the one that Stefano did the script for. It's a made-for-TV movie, and it was a prequel. So, and they brought Olivia Hussey in to play Mrs. Bates. and I
Oh,
had
yeah, that's true.
forgotten about that. I don't think I've seen the entire that in its entirety.
Oh, yeah,
But
that's understandable. Yeah.
I'd be curious to see it since it was written by John Stefano. That it's probably a fairly decent script. But he wrote it
Right.
in response to the fact that he didn't so much like the fact that they did a 2-3, of Psycho. He wasn't really impressed with the sequels.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Actually,
Yeah,
that's what's interesting is I remember reading that four kind of retcons two and three. That kind of explains that. But honestly, I feel they could still fit, even though they're not mentioned.
yeah. I mean, it's all what you like anyway. I kind of liked. I've seen one of the Psycho sequels, and it was okay. I mean, I mean, Tony Perkins is a fine actor and was a fine actor, and so seeing him again was kind of fun. Um, he's brilliant in this, in the original. He's absolutely brilliant. I mean, you see what's going on behind his eyes and the little smirks and all this sort of thing that sort of the first time you see it, it's like this guy is where is he? Where
Oh, yeah.
he's obviously this mama's boy, but is he the one doing this, or is mama doing it, or is mama telling him to do it, or bang, no, he is mama. You know, which is kind
Yeah.
of fun when Simon Oakland comes on. That's his big scene at the end of it. He has to explain everything to you. It's like Sister Mother Ignatius or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I heard the
So
reason why that's in the movie is because they were worried audiences wouldn't understand like that.
I
He
would
was.
not be surprised if that played a role in that scene. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. This film, by the way, we were talking about it earlier that it had kind of a sparse feel to it. It only was about an $800,000 budget,
Oh,
which
wow.
Hmm.
it ended up being a blockbuster. It made like $50 million, which is a lot of money in 1960, and also it's like 60 times its outlay. Its cost. So it was impressively good for contemporary audiences as well as its history. It's
Oh,
really
yeah, that's true. Actually, it's interesting you say that because, like, I noticed, like, when they came to the motel, like it was $10, and I was thinking that's pretty cheap for a motel, but I looked it up. I guess a $10 would be like almost $110 now.
it. Yeah, it would be, yeah, absolutely 80 or $100. Sure, absolutely, yeah, because most people were making less than $100 a week. Or around $100 a week. I think that in 1960, my dad was making something somewhere between 100 and 120, and he was in the military, so he was making, I mean, he was making
Oh,
a
wow.
little bit better living than a lot of middle class people were at that time.
I can see that. But yeah, there's a show called Bates Motel which aired from 2013 and through 2017. I know, like, obviously it's based on this, but see,
Yeah,
a lot of people consider that a prequel. That's why I mentioned a lot of people might watch that first. But in my opinion, it never was because, well, one, the ending, but I don't know if I should spoil it, in case you guys watch it. But yeah, like,
yeah,
Go ahead
in
and
my opinion,
spoil it.
yeah. You can if you want to. It's fine. We're warning people right now. There's a spoiler.
okay, yeah, like in the end, Norman dies, and a lot of people are confused by that because they're like, how could it go into Bates Motel? It's like, well, one, it already does go into Bates Motel because
Well,
um, Mary shows up.
Yeah, it's a bit of an alternate universe, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's why I don't consider a prequel because I've always seen it as a more of a what if kind of than a prequel.
Yeah,
Because for those that don't know, they have like cell phones and laptops and stuff on.
yeah.
What were you saying, Patrick?
the Van Sant thing. Oh God.
Now it could be confusing because I know there's also Bates Motel from the '80s, but that's funny. That was actually going to be a TV show, but it never got picked up. But I think the show is still pretty good, though. I don't know if how you guys feel about it, but
I,
yes.
I
I,
actually haven't seen it yet, but that's okay. I'm not as interested in seeing it as I am in the original movie and a
Mhm.
couple of the sequels. Um, I'm more interested in that because of, again, Tony Perkins' involvement in those.
I mean, they also kind of ruined the lore a little bit because, as you know, like, he pretended to be his mom to create the illusion she was still alive. The show kind of goes against that too. Like in the show, he just kind of does one day, you know.
Yeah, instead of having it be a sort of a thing that starts when she's still alive and all of that. Yeah.
It was really strange. And there's also like a weird incest story too. Well, I mean, not like story, but yeah, like it's revealed that his older brother Dylan is a product his of her brother raping her.
Ooh.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that adds to the terror horror of it for sure. Absolutely. So that would be an interesting departure, and also, yeah, I think that would definitely be an alternate universe type of a
Hmm.
storyline for that.
Yes, probably they got the rights to the novel and said, you know what? What the heck? This novel doesn't work. We might as well just rewrite it for our own thing.
Hmm. And to
I
be
can see
able
that.
to also serialize it and
Hmm.
continue it
Uh,
for a while.
to be fair, the movie did change stuff too. Like, you know, like originally Norman was in the book, he was balding and like in his 40s, you know.
Hmm. Yes, and in here he's obviously probably around 30-ish and lanky and full head of hair, fairly good looking. Yeah,
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 well, I think there it makes sense because if you see like let's say Martin Balsam played Norman Bates in Psycho, you're going to immediately suspect him. Like you're going to
right,
automatically go because he's older, he's balding. With Perkins, he could play it just it's just odd enough where
yeah,
you're never quite sure is he just shy, is he just a mama's boy, or is he darker? And I
right.
think that's the secret to the film's success. And I don't think you can it's not something you can easily capture again.
No, and even in knowing it, watching it develop, moment to moment in the film is
Mhm.
still a joy. It's really well done.
Oh yeah, I agree.
That was the one thing I wish didn't happen in the film, but realized did happen is that Martin Balsam's character got whacked. The private investigator. I thought he was a pretty cool,
Oh, yeah.
very noirish character. That was injecting a little bit of film noir right in there.
Mhm.
A gumshoe detective kind of guy, and I enjoyed his performance in that. But inevitably, he kind of had to go, so to build the tension to the end.
Oh yeah, that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, one thing that this and actually I hate to say this, I think Psycho 4 screwed this up too. It's kind of implied that Norma was, you know, an old lady when she passed away, but like in 4 and in the new one, they made her, you know, like a young
She's
lady.
fairly young. Yeah, she was probably in her 40s. Yeah, not an old lady at all. And Olivia Hussey was also a beautiful woman, even if they made her up to look less than. It's Olivia Hussey. You know, she was an attractive woman. So yeah, you're right. That belies the origin of it, which definitely the corpse that we end up seeing is that of an old woman. With the gray hair and the dowdy clothes and everything else.
Oh yeah. And actually what's weird is both adaptations also weirdly take place in a different town than the original. As you know, this takes place in Fairville, California, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, the Bates Motel from the '80s takes place in Fairville, California, which is really
Oh,
weird.
two separate words. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the new one takes place in White Pine Bay, Oregon.
No, that's interesting. I wonder
Yeah,
why
it's
they
pretty weird.
changed it to make it more remote, maybe.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
could see that.
yeah, possibility. But it's interesting how this was, I mean, there was some location shooting, obviously, highway locations and things like that. But the Bates house and the motel was on the back lot, I believe, in Burbank or Los Angeles. And I believe the Bates house was there. I mean, and the hotel was there on the tour for a while. One of the movie tours. So it was all pretty self-contained. Again, with a budget of $800,000, even in 1960, I mean, it was significant budget, but it wasn't exactly a skyrocketed budget either. It wasn't like a blockbuster budget. But they also did like all of the car. stuff was very film noir done. You're inside a car, but there's a screen behind the car. It's all pre-filmed, all of the stuff driving and so on, which is very very classic, 40s. Uh, that they did that a lot in the 40s and 50s.
I
So
can see that too, you know.
yeah, it has that flavor. And it's great. It's part of why the film is so good. I think it's just got that flavor to it. It's
Oh,
it's
that's
a
true.
it's a transitional period anyway. There's still quite a few black and white films being made around 1960, but there are also more and more color films being made. So it's a
Oh yeah.
transitional period.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you might already know this, but yeah, in the TV show they also switched who got killed by Norman as well. Like in the show, Sam gets killed instead of Marion, yeah.
Okay,
I
okay,
know I'm ruining it for anyone that wants to watch.
yeah.
That's probably fine. Well, yeah, well, I guess it's relevant because we're talking about the changes between them, you know.
Yeah, I mean there are those changes because obviously in the original movie, Sam and the sister do not get killed. She's almost killed, but Sam rouses himself from being knocked out and saves the day at the very last instance.
Yeah, I guess they wanted to like surprise people, you know. Like they figured everyone was expecting Marion to get killed, so it was a twist to
Yeah,
switch it to
yeah.
Sam.
It was also a great way to sort of reveal the whole thing with Norman dressed as his mother and, kind of exposing that whole thing and having him have a breakdown because he's been exposed. So that
Oh
was
yeah.
interesting. I saw a great print of it too. I found it on this movie website that was kind of Russian, and
Oh yeah.
it was a really good enhanced print. It looked beautiful, so that was fun to see.
Oh yeah.
I had not seen it in, in that good a condition for maybe ever.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Do you have this on 4K or just Blu-ray, or do you just watch on streaming?
I do not. I just watched it. I streamed it.
Oh,
So
okay, because I might get the 4K because I heard it's pretty good on 4K, but I'm not
yeah, if
sure.
it's anything like this one, and it's probably even better. It probably is. It's probably been restored quite nicely. So yeah, I would
Oh
definitely
yeah.
say it's cool.
Oh yeah. One thing I also feel I should mention is this is also based on Ed Gein, which no, this isn't like because of the show. I swear I picked this.
Inspired by Ed Gein's. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
inspired by him. Yeah, it is. You're right.
I guess Robert Bloch didn't know that much about Ed Gein when he wrote the book, though.
Probably from some newspaper articles and stories and that sort of thing, because it was big news when it happened, when he was finally caught. So there was some descriptive information out there. So that's probably where he got his
Hmm.
idea from.
Oh yeah, and actually, he's one of the more interesting interpretations of Ed Gein because a lot of people think of Ed Gein and they think like masks or furniture made out of skin, but he's actually
Mhm.
the other part of Ed Gein. He's the obsessed with my mom,
Yes,
Ed Gein.
that's yeah. I think that's the extraction that Robert Bloch actually probably focused on because that was the more psychological, directly psychological, classic, psycho guy is obsessed with his mother and he's killing on her behalf, but he doesn't know it and all this stuff. It kind of fit that era, and also 1960 was a burgeoning era for psychology. Psychoanalysis was big, and it was the beginning of all of that for a lot of Americans who had never heard of it before.
Hmm.
So,
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
so guys, what do you give this movie?
Well, I'd say 9.5 out of 10.
You give it a 9.5. Cool.
Yeah, I'll give it a nine. Only because not because the film's bad, but I think it's so familiar now. And I think as Patrick pointed out, you know, I'm not sure how people would react to it. And I think because we've had the Gus Van Sant remake and all the prequels, I don't think the movie sequels did any damage, but I think
No.
it's just material that people go to after again. So I'm going to knock it because I think as an original, it's great, but I think it's lost some of its luster because people just keep going back to that particular well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I'll give it a 9.5 as well for that reason, and no other. I like the fact that it's sparse. I like the fact that it's very stripped down. Uh, I like I like a lot of the classical illusions in it. Woman gone bad, she gets hers. Does she deserve it or not? Well, that's up to you, the viewer. Thank you very much. And how it comes about, the gumshoe who comes in, and all of that noirish stuff that's also a part of it. I really love that stuff. This film could have been made in the 1940s. It would have been a little bit different because they wouldn't have bothered to explain it as being some kind of a psychological obsession. He would have just been they wouldn't even bother to explain it. They would have had him be, and dressing in drag as mommy would have been an affectation in the 40s. But by the 60s, it's a part of the, as we've said before, the zeitgeist. People are more familiar with the psychology aspect of it.
Mhm.
That's true. And it's also pretty obvious that, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it's obvious that John Carpenter took inspiration from this movie as well.
Indeed,
Mhm.
indeed, yes. I think there are several filmmakers that have taken inspiration from Psycho as one of the seminal movies for this kind of horror. So, anything else to add, gentlemen, at this
Mm,
point?
I'm
nope.
not thinking.
Are pretty good. It's a great movie. I will say that it is a classic. If you've never seen it, it's worth seeing. Whether you know what's going to happen or not, it's a fabulous movie, and you'll be gratified by it, I think. And the fact that it's in black and white is kind of a fun thing too. It's a textural thing that's
Oh,
fun.
that's true. And I
Yep.
recommend watching this version over the remake. Honestly.
Yeah, so do I. So do
Mhm.
I. Absolutely. This is the first one you should watch. And I'm not saying don't watch the remakes, but this is the first one you should watch. Absolutely at all. Okay, then I guess that concludes this episode of those Collinsport Boys, presented by Jewel T. Sains. And gentlemen, don't forget that, or our audience, don't forget that Jewel T. Sains is the resident of Collinwood.
Mhm.
Look him up on YouTube a lot. Patrick McRae, who is no longer with us, but was with us for the bulk of this, um, has written some wonderful books, not only about Dark Shadows, but some other stuff. You can look him up on Amazon, and you'll find some of his uh, um, day books. Dark Shadows day books are wonderful. I highly recommend them, and they're not particularly expensive. They're a worthy
Mhm.
peruse for that as well. And I'm Alan Gallant, and I have Collinsport After Dark, which is also a YouTube video podcast, which concentrates a lot on Dark Shadows collectibles and various other material elements associated with Dark Shadows. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. And everybody out there, have a great evening, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. Good night, all.
You have a good night.